Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. I am joined here today by Dean Peter Tufano, the Dean at Saïd Business School, and here today we're going to be speaking about the Oxford MBA, how it fits into life at Saïd Business School and our relationship with the wider university, as well as exciting changes in store for you as you come into the 2019-20 cohort. So Peter, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm here with some of my colleagues who are running the MBA program, and I'm thrilled to be with you all today. Is there a way I can check and make sure that somebody's listening? Can anybody send a message just to say you can hear us? I'm here. Thank you. At least there's one person there. Excellent. Happy to be there. So I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking at you and then take some questions around three topics. One is remind you of things you probably know. All of you who applied to the program, you've been accepted. And I would believe you've been accepted, and you're sitting on your offers trying to figure out whether we're the right place. So I want to just review things you should know about the school. Secondly, talk about a few things you might not know about the school. And then third, the things I don't know about what you don't know, which is your questions. So if we can just start there. So there's some formulas that we use to describe the school, and I think I'll start with those in order to make sense of what we do here at the school. And there's an expression that you will see on the flip charts around the building, which is a world-class business school community embedded in a world-class university and tackling world-scale problems. What does that mean? And what's the relevance of that for you as an MBA applicant? And why does that differentiate Saïd from other places that you might go? So let's start with the first one, world-class business community. What's that all about? World-class means great students. What you'll find when you come here is that your classmates are outstanding. They come from all over the world. We joke everybody here is a minority, and it's absolutely true. There is no group in our program this year, and I suspect no group in the program next year, which comes even close to a majority. In fact, we have relatively equal fractions from Europe, from Africa, from East Asia, from South Asia. We'd have a little bit more from North America. We have slightly less from Latin America and Australia, New Zealand, and the Middle East. But absolutely no one is a majority in this school. Why is that important? I think it's really important because the world that we live in is one in which people are building national barriers. They are trying to divide us. They are finding differences. And in this community, what we're trying to do is to celebrate those differences, but to find the similarities as well. So the world-class business community, the first part is excellent students from all around the world. Second, you can't have a world-class business community without great teachers and great researchers, and we have many of those. If you were getting all of our emails, you'd see that routinely I'm announcing awards by our faculty. We just over the weekend, I was notified that one of our faculty members was just made a fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences, which brings to 3 the number here. We have the top marketing group in the UK. We have people who are doing amazing work in private equity. The leading private equity conferences are being held here. We obviously have amazing work around issues around purpose. Colin Mayer, his new book, Prosperity, has been nominated for the Best Book Award by the FT. You have absolutely top-notch academics here who are great researchers and teachers. But it's not just excellent faculty, we also have excellent staff. We don't always talk about this, but if you look at it, our IT team routinely wins awards around the UK and Europe for the great work that they do. If you wonder who the best chef is in the, across all of the UK, at least for the group that provides our catering, we have the best chef in the entire country. You'll find that out when you come here to go to school. So excellent students, excellent faculty, excellent staff, excellent facilities. There are many different business schools, and on the one hand, you might say facilities in the place doesn't matter, but in fact it does. Before I was an academic, one of the careers that I tried on for a while was as an architect. So I worked for an architectural firm and a real estate development firm. I'm a big believer that place matters. And the place here, the physical environment at the business school, you'll find to be remarkable. It's modern, it's light, it's airy, it does all the things you'd expect. And then on top of that, we'll get to this a little bit in a moment, you get the richness of this historical campus as well. So world-class business community, who else is in this community? Well, it's alumni. We have a great alumni base. Total Oxford Business alumni totals about 20,000. And they are all over the world. They do all sorts of things. Some of them will have gotten degrees like the MBA degree. Others will have gotten others of our degrees, whether it's our undergraduate program in economics and management or our MFE, Masters of Financial Economics or Master of Law and Finance program. And others are Oxford graduates who studied all different sorts of things, but ended up in business. This gives you access not only to the narrow set of people who went through the program like yours, but to everybody who went through Oxford who has a connection with business, which makes life remarkably fun. And the further away you get from Oxford, it turns out that our business community includes not only us, but Cambridge as well. While we are bitter rivals when we're here in the UK, the further away you get, it turns out that these groups tend to work closely together. So I'm headed on Thursday to Japan and Hong Kong and China, and there, what you'll find is Oxbridge societies are pretty normal. So you're part not only of an MBA program, not only part of Saïd Business School, not only part of Oxford, but part of this extended network. So the community that you're going to join is amazing, and it is a business community, and I feel very confident when I call it a world-class community. There are just amazing people in it. Another example is over the last few weekends, we've had two big conferences here at the school. One was an Africa Business Conference, and the week before that, we had an entrepreneurship conference, Oxford Saïd Entrepreneurship Forum, and we had respectively 350 and 400 people at each of these conferences. They were not only our students and our colleagues from around the university, but people from all around the UK and beyond who came to join us. So our community is big and deep and interesting, and you will make lots of friends and colleagues and acquaintances in that community. So the first part is world-class business community, and tick that box. It's real and it's vibrant. The second is embedded in a world-class university. So what does that mean, and why is that important? There are lots of business schools, by some counts over 15,000. And there are many very good business schools, there's no question about it. But Oxford and Saïd, Oxford makes Saïd an even more amazing business school. And not only because of the brand and that network I just talked about, but because your experience will be different. It's hard to describe all that, but let me just try to talk about it. Well, the world-class university part, I don't think we have to talk a lot about that. Oxford is, in fact, a world-class university. Times Higher has ranked this university as the #1 university for a few years running now. And even if it weren't for the Times Higher rankings, I think you'd acknowledge that Oxford is not only one of the world's oldest universities, but also one of the best. So what's that mean to you? In many business schools, what you'd find is that there'd be no university around you. There are many good business schools, especially in Europe, that are not part of universities. And others where the university is hundreds of kilometers away. And yet others where, well, there's no distance between the business school and the university. There is an emotional and cultural gap that needs to be bridged. That's not the case here. Just about every subject is studied in the university, and if you want access to that set of materials and those people, it's at your fingertips. Well, maybe not your fingertips, but at dinner. So you will be a member of an Oxford college. Every student here at the university must be a member of an Oxford college. They range from small colleges like St. Bennett's, which has 75 students, to large colleges, which have over 600. And in that college, you will sometimes live, you will dine, you will do athletics if you'd like to. You can do social events like balls. And yes, by the way, someone asked me today, do I need to bring a tux and a ball gown? And the answer is probably you should. And you will be connected with all of them through your colleges. And then you'll be connected with all of them through the Oxford Union. Part of your membership in the school brings with it a lifetime membership in the Oxford Union, which is not only the world's preeminent debating society, but also a venue where many world leaders, both people that you respect and people you abhor, may come to speak. And what I just said was really important. This is a place where you're going to meet people that are amazing, that you respect. It will also be a place where we intentionally bring in people whom you do not agree with. And part of the critical thinking and critical approach to our learning is to be able to have engaged conversation and disagree strongly with people who hold different views from yours. That's all part of embedded in the university. Then there are functional ways that we're embedded in the university. Our undergraduate program is done joint with economics. Our 2 pre-experienced master's programs, law and finance, is done with law, and that our work in the Master's in Financial Economics program is done jointly with economics. The MLF, Law and Finance, MFE, Financial Economics, and MBA programs all kind of come together in your 3rd term, affectionately known as Trinity, where you'll all be sharing some electives. So you will sit side by side with students who are studying law and finance or financial economics, and you will study with them in some of your courses. You can avoid the rest of the university, but you'd have to work really hard at it here. And the benefits are pretty amazing. And I'll just give you 2 experiences from my own kind of life over the last year or so. I found myself at dinner at Balliol, my college, which was founded in 1263, with one of my colleagues who studies, I guess she studies poetry from the 4th century AD. She's younger than I am, and when I sat down to dinner and she sat across from me and I explained who I was, I think she shuddered. Oh my God, I have to talk to the dean of the business school. And I will confess there was a shudder in me too, like what am I going to say for the next hour and a half or 2 hours, because dinners are not short, to this woman who studies something I know virtually nothing about. But we did find common ground, and it wasn't about sports and just about current events. But I learned something about what she does, and I think she learned something about what I do. And that was a remarkably fun and, at the end of it, one of my more favorite dinners. I went to another dinner, this one in the last month, with someone, and it was a combative dinner because they were asking me many very, very hard questions about business. Why is it that business was doing the things that they were doing? Why does Facebook use advertising the way that it does? How can they justify that? How can that platform be used to thwart democracy? You know, what's business all about? It was a difficult dinner, and that was equally part of the Oxford experience. On the one hand, you will meet people who are different from you, and you will learn what they do, and you will enjoy that. And then other times, people will challenge you, and that's what we want to happen here at this university. Business is an engine of society, there's no question about it. But that engine knocks sometimes, and there are problems with it. And you have to be able to understand that from not only your own perspective, but others. So this is, I think, the luxury. This is the amazing part of being a student at Saïd. You are integrally part of Oxford University. And sometimes it's the fun magic of balls where you dress up in black tie or white tie and ball gowns and dance until the morning. Sometimes it's about seminars. Sometimes it's about long dinners. But it's all amazing. And then I'd be remiss not to add one other thing, which is that the Oxford Foundry, which we set up about 18 months ago, is the university's home for entrepreneurship for students. It's open to all 24,000 students in the university. In the Foundry, what you'll find is programming that you might not find otherwise. For example, last year, if you wanted to learn how to program in blockchain, that happened in the Foundry. If you want to meet people from all across the university and work on business plans, that happens in the Foundry. If you want to do special sessions on top of the things that we do in the Career Center about personal branding and other things, that's all done at the Foundry. About 2,500 students, to put that in perspective, out of the 24,000 students are currently members of the Foundry. About 12% of those are from the business school. So you will find yourself in a minority at the Foundry. And I think that's a great thing, because innovation and entrepreneurship, it knows no bounds. And some of the best teams that I've seen coming out of the Foundry are ones which combine business school students with people from engineering or the humanities. In fact, let me give you an example of that just to make it concrete. We had an event 3 weeks ago called AI Impact Weekend. And in it, students arrived on a Friday night, and they formed into diverse teams where the diversity there was not just the things you'd expect, but there were scientists in each team and humanities folks and social scientists. And their task was by Tuesday evening to come up with basically a hackathon where they produced some set of ideas that would help figure out how to make AI reduce discrimination in employment decision-making. AI is a magical thing that we'll talk about maybe in a little bit, but it also can be used in perverse ways. If you simply feed an artificial intelligence engine current data, it can just perpetuate the biases that we make right now. So the combination of having computer scientists alongside of business students, alongside of humanities folks and social scientists working on these things produced an incredible set of ideas and proposals. And I dare say, as good as our MBAs would have been, these ideas were far stronger with these multidisciplinary teams. So you are embedded in a world-class university. So that's the second pillar, as it were. The third one is tackling world-scale problems. This is an ambitious and some bold and maybe silly thing to say. How is it that a business school can at least aspire to not just produce leaders or just create folks who can get good jobs, but collectively to think that we might be able to do more than that? And again, let's kind of think of it in terms of the backdrop. We have a number of politicians who are suggesting that we need to look backwards to our glorious pasts to make our various countries great again, and others who are looking back at empire. But we have to look forward. And looking forward, what we see is a set of issues that are not trivial. Climate change. You can read the various reports that have come out from the UN and other places about the speed with which the climate is changing and the implications for biodiversity and other things. Inequality, toxic inequality that's leading to real gaps between us, gender inequality, polarization and hatred, unintended consequences of technologies. If we were to produce great students who got great jobs and took care of their families, but somehow all of these issues were left undone, I think we don't deserve to be business school at Oxford. It's simple as that. That's not to say any one individual has that responsibility. We collectively do. So what does that mean to you as a potential student? First of all, we need to make sure that you're successful in thinking about how individuals work, yourself, how teams work, and how you will lead a team, how you will lead an organization, and how you will lead systems. All those issues I just talked about, climate change, inequality, education, gender inequality, consequences of technology, they're all systems level issues. They all are about the interaction between government and business and civil society, interactions between firms. And so we need more systems leaders. You're going to have to learn about how to be a systems leader, and one of the places that we do that in the school is through our Global Opportunities and Threats course. This is a requirement, as you know, of the MBA program, and has been for the last 6 years. On the one hand, you will learn about a specific phenomena. This year it's energy. In prior years it's been water, it's been demography and aging. And I won't reveal what I think the most likely topic is for next year. But we always look at these big systemic issues, and you'll be trained to use a set of tools to understand those issues. Mapping entire systems, how to use user-centered design, how to kind of be a systems leader, basically. And you're going to have to apply those sets of tools in a very unstructured setting in order to see how you can make progress to solve some of these systems issues. This is a unique part of our curriculum. As far as I can tell, you're not going to find this in many, if any, other business schools, and we're very, very proud of it. But it's not just that. It's the speakers that come. I've been here for 8 years, and in those 8 years, I've been proud to welcome 4 Nobel Peace Prize winners to the school. More than Nobel Peace Prize winners, I've been proud to welcome a number of leaders of business who are also systems leaders, people who, by virtue of the roles in their organizations, have helped to, or are attempting to make broader change. I'll just call out a few of them. We welcomed recently Paul Pullman to the school. Paul just stepped down as the chair of Unilever. Paul was an effective CEO, but also he has been trying to move forward many agendas around the Sustainable Development Goals. We invited Dominic Barton, who just stepped down as head of McKinsey here to the school. Dominic, in addition to running McKinsey, has been really a strong advocate for long-term thinking and founded Focusing Capital in the Long Term. We invited Dr. Ngozi here. Dr. Ngozi was at the World Bank, and before that, she was in Nigeria. Her book, Fighting Corruption is Dangerous, is a frightening, basically autobiography of how she took on the powers of vested interests in her home country in order to make the oil system and other parts of the economy work much better. In each of these three cases, these women and men not only did their jobs, but tried to make the world around them a fairer, more just place. Those are what systems leaders look like. In addition to go-to and bringing in speakers, you'll have many other opportunities to try to learn how it is that in time you will have an impact on the world. I mentioned AI Impact Weekend before. Another set of activities that we do is the Social Impact Lab, and that is an opportunity to make change there. There's also the Map the System competition, the Skoll Center, and much, much more. So let's just put these three pieces together. The first part, world-class business community, we have that, and we have it abundantly. In the traditional ways that you'd expect from a business school. We have an excellent finance faculty that's top of the game in what they do. We have a tremendous marketing faculty that's second to none in terms of marketing and digital marketing. We just have great folks here at the school. So the first element is traditional success, and we are. The second element is that we choose not to do it alone. It's a mark of humility in some sense to recognize that we're stronger when we work together. And then finally, the third element is that it has to add up to more than us, and that's the purposeful element that's about tackling world-scale problems. You may have seen our 6 values. Maybe I'll just say a word about those. I'm going to group them into 3 groups. The first group is excellence and purpose, which is how we do what we do and why we do what we do. And I think that this is related to the concepts of fiduciary duty. We have fiduciary duty to the world. In fiduciary duties, as normally expressed, you have 2 duties, a duty of loyalty and a duty of care. A duty of loyalty is to do the best for the other person. A duty of care is to do the absolute best you can. And these first 2 values about excellence and purpose simply mirror the fiduciary duties that we hold to the world. The second is, what we think is the modus operandi for changing the world, and those are entrepreneurship and transformation. We're probably not going to improve the world in the way that we've talked about it simply by continuing to do everything the way that we've done it. And so therefore, entrepreneurship and transformation go together as a package in speaking about our willingness to change the world. And finally, the third pair go together is respect and collaboration. How do we do the work that we do? If we don't do it with respect and collaboration, then again, we would be guilty of all the things that you might expect everywhere else. So these 6 values have meaning. It's hard to live values every day, but we try. And if you come, we hope that you will too. So that's the first part. The second part is what's some things you don't know about the school. And I thought I would just kind of say a few things that don't show up on the website. I just went back over the website this weekend to see what wasn't on it. And therefore, I thought I would mention 3 things that you might not find on the website. The first is that for more than 90% of you like me are coming to a new country. And what does that mean? Our website is pretty locked down, but it means the first thing, they speak a different language here. So for example, rather than say things are fantastic or tremendous, you say not bad here. My personal favorite is business meetings. When you come to a business meeting in the US and you say, let's table that, you mean, let's take it off the table. In the UK, you mean, let's put it on the table. So the language is completely different. The culture is somewhat different too. And my British colleagues around the table are all snickering at me. So for those of us who didn't grow up here, it's useful to kind of make sense of it. I'm going to recommend a book called Watching the English by Kate Fox, which I received 6 copies of before I arrived here at Oxford by everyone that I knew. They're all laughing now, which is an interesting ethnographic study of life in England. Why, for example, we start every conversation with the weather. But on a more serious note, let's talk about Brexit. Brexit, which is playing out in real time, is something that we're all watching very, very carefully. With dislocation comes opportunity. We may disagree about whether the UK should or shouldn't leave Europe. I'm not a British citizen. It's really not my place to say. But I think most people would acknowledge that in the wake of whatever happens, things will be different. With dislocation will come opportunity. For people who are willing to seize those opportunities, I think that this will be a really interesting time. Since most of our students are non-Europeans, I think it might, in a strange way, level the playing field between European and non-European students here. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you that there's going to be a fair bit of change. And with change, for people who are willing to take risk, interesting things could happen. The second thing I'll talk about, which I realize doesn't show up on our website, is the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I just thought I would talk broadly around the things that are going on at the school and the university around the Fourth Industrial Revolution in some places where you might find it in your classes. This set of technologies that is sometimes dubbed 4IR include everything from self-driving cars to nanotechnology to artificial intelligence and machine learning and natural language processing to various genetic technologies. They literally have the promise of changing almost everything. We have 6 or 7 things going on across the school in this space. You may have seen that we've just announced that we're launching something called the Creative Destruction Lab. CDL, as it's known, is an opportunity to bring in some of the most successful startups across Europe to Oxford and surround them with a set of advisors, but more importantly, for your perspective, a set of MBA students who work with these ventures. It will create, for some of you, the highest powered internship with the front seat on the newest technologies. There's some electives that you will see. This year we're offering a new elective on machine learning and finance. But beyond what you're going to find literally just inside the school at the Foundry, you'll find, as I was mentioning, AI Impact Weekend and much more on AI. You'll find there are many societies across the university that are focused on these topics, like the Blockchain Society and others. And then the research activities of the school include things like, for example, right now downstairs, there's a kickoff of a 2-year research project on the impact of AI on the law profession. We have other work that we're kicking off on the impact of AI on the Sustainable Development Goals. So in your lifetime, these technologies will be important. These technologies will change the way things work. And it's important that we as Oxford stay on top of that. So let's roll it back from the fourth to the first industrial revolution, if we might. The first industrial revolution is often said to be between 1760 and 1820. In 1759, Adam Smith, who is a professor, or actually at that point was a student, or had been a student at Balliol College, my college, wrote his first book, Theory of Moral Sentiments. In Adam Smith's book, he talked about how it is we owe duties to one another. In 1776, he wrote his second big book, Wealth of Nations. Now, this was in the middle of the height of the Industrial Revolution. In it, Smith characterized the kind of mechanics of the first Industrial Revolution, specialization and how that worked and how it is that competition worked. So a question that I asked last week to a very senior group of executives who were in having dinner at my college was, let's think about this. Would Adam Smith in 1776 have turned his back on what he wrote in 1759? Did the creation of new technologies fundamentally change our responsibilities to one another? And if you read the Wealth of Nations, what you'd find is, if anything, I think he doubled down on the responsibilities that we owe to one another. So in the first Industrial Revolution, Oxford was part of this story, not only the creation of these technologies, but also thinking about how we have to behave as leaders in a world that is technologically changing every day. And Smith, I think, is a great example of, a Balliol, a college student who went on to great fame. I think we have to do the same things about the Fourth Industrial Revolution now, and this is your time, and this is our time to think through those issues. So the second thing you won't find on our website is Fourth Industrial Revolution. The third thing that isn't on our website, but as I was reflecting to have something to say to you all that was meaningful, is that I was talking to some of our colleagues who do research on paradoxes. Paradoxes are ways to frame the conflicts that we face all the time that kind of animate our lives. And once I started playing around with paradoxes, there are a number of paradoxes that you're going to have to deal with if you come to Oxford. The first simple one is old and new. Business school is brand new. The main building built in 2002, the executive education wing 2012. There's a new one that we're working on that will hopefully open in 2021. Yet the rest of Oxford's really old. So as I said, my college, 1263, Christchurch, mid 15th century, and you get to experience the new and the old. So those are statements about points in time. You also get to experience historical and forward-looking. Historical is, in my mind, looking backwards. And forward-looking is, as the definition is, looking forwards. And you have to maintain both a historical perspective and a forward-looking perspective. Another paradox is ambitious and supportive. A lot of the times we think that ambitious people are jerks, that they are just out to make themselves more successful. Is it possible to be at one time both ambitious and supportive? Can you be excellent and humble at the same time? I'd like to think you can, because if not, then the world's not in a good place. Can you be in a magical place and a mundane place at the same time? Make no doubts about it. Oxford is a magical place, but there are elements that are mundane. Your life, if you come to this place, will be a life of paradoxes, old and new, historical and forward-looking, ambitious and supportive, excellent and humble, magical and mundane. I'd like to say we can resolve all those paradoxes, and there'll be a PowerPoint slide that will tell you which one is more relevant than the other. But the truth is that they're all equally relevant. And the tension that you will experience here, which I think is a positive tension, is what Oxford is all about. And so we don't try to make your life easy. In GoTo, we don't give you answers to how the world's problems will be solved. We don't explain to you how you're going to somehow reconcile the 30 activities that will be taking place every night and the work that you have to do. We're not going to be able to easily answer those questions that I faced in dinner about why it is that current digital marketing and ad targeting works the way that it does and whether it's destroying democracy. You will come here and I think you will feel challenged. And if you do, I think we're doing a great job because it means you're starting to grow to be an adult leader. And that's part of what we hope that happens here at Oxford. So I think I've spoken at you for the last 35 minutes. First, about just kind of going over the things you should have read on a website and the things you should know about Oxford. Secondly, giving you a set of things you might not know. And third, now going to the things that I don't know, which are the questions that you have. So with that, can we, can you kind of start to think about some questions and post them so that I can help you in your decision-making process?
So we've got one question through, thank you. How do all the entrepreneurship pieces at Oxford and the school all come together?
Okay, so what I'd like everybody to do is to draw a triangle. And then draw lines at the middle top and the bottom top. So there's three parts of the triangle. The bottom of the triangle is about people who want to come to understand entrepreneurship, but don't know what that even means. The middle is for people who understand what that means, but don't want to start a firm. And the top is for people who want to start firms. All three levels there are relevant. And then you can, if you'd like, draw another line from the top to the bottom. And to the left of the line, let's put the university, and to the right of the line, let's put the business school. So you have 6 different segments, as it were. At the bottom, the Foundry's activities, a lot of the Foundry's activities are at the bottom of the pyramid, which are about explaining what entrepreneurship is all about resilience, about personal branding, about business plans, about tech things. So much of the Foundries program sits at the base of this pyramid. Alongside of it, at the base of the pyramid, sits many of the activities that we do at the Entrepreneurship Center. For example, the Oxford Saïd Entrepreneurship Forum, or the lecture series that the Entrepreneurship Center puts together. So between the university-facing activities and the business school-facing activities, they fill out the bottom of the pyramid. The middle of the pyramid is for people who want internships. On the university side, there's a program that we run at the Foundry for folks outside the business school, trying to help them to gain internships with entrepreneurial firms. To the right-hand side, you have the activities of our Career Center, which is dealing with established employers, but also entrepreneurial firms, and also the Creative Destruction Lab that I mentioned before. The Creative Destruction Lab, as I said, will provide a number of students with the opportunities to basically intern with, work with some of the highest flying AI startups in Europe. In the top of the pyramid, even though I said you could draw a line down it, just make the top of the pyramid, one big block. And that is for people who want to start firms. The accelerator that we run at the Foundry, the Elevate Accelerator, is open to students and young alumni from the business school and elsewhere. And we had about 230 applications for the 10 slots in the current cohort. And that's a place that we help incubate and accelerate those ventures. There's one other part that you can either stick at the top or in the middle, and that's the Oxford Seed Fund. In the Seed Fund, you're not creating a venture, but you are fundamentally running a venture fund. So the students who run the Seed Fund, which is all run out of the business school, are doing due diligence on over 100 different ventures and are investing the money of the Seed Fund into those ventures. The students who run that, I think, would say that they have one of the most intense and satisfying and educational experiences of being in Oxford as a result of doing that. So if you fill out that pyramid, that's what entrepreneurship looks like. There's things inside the business school and the things outside the business school. Okay.
We've got another few good questions coming through. Thank you, everyone. We've got one here about how the new CDL and the Foundry will fit together.
Sure. So this will keep me on the same topic. The Foundry is, let me back up. There are 24,000 students at Oxford. There are a few thousand faculty members and staff at Oxford. The Foundry is all about the students of Oxford. CDL is about the best ventures across Europe in AI. Some of them will come from the staff of Oxford, others will come from the rest of the UK, and others will come from the rest of Europe. Supporting CDL is a set of advisors, but also a set of scientists. So the scientists from around the university will sit on the panel supporting these ventures, and the MBA students will as well. So CDL is kind of connected to, it's a complement to the activities of the Foundry, but CDL is primarily, if you think of it from a student perspective, giving MBA students this supercharged experience, as opposed to giving students from the rest of the university this supercharged experience. Okay, there are lots of questions here, and they're in small print, so I have to read them. Great. MBA students don't come in as blank slates. They bring professional and personal experiences. How does Saïd balance using what students bring in with teaching them something new and preparing them for their pivot they're looking for? That's a great question, and it's absolutely true. One of the tensions when you come to a business school is that there's, in some business schools, I think less so this one, there's a tension to be like everybody else, to travel in packs, to go with herds. We tend to be less like that than most other business schools. So having assembled a pretty eclectic class, we like to celebrate the differences in that class. Having said that, there are things that you all need to learn. So how do we make sure that you find your path? Actually, no, how you find your path. We're not going to find it for you and support you on that journey, while at the same time making sure that you know finance and accounting and marketing and all the things that will distinguish you as an MBA. Some of that will come from what goes on in class, but far more of it will come through the activities of the Career Center. You have access to our professional staff here at the Career Center. You have access to coaches. You have access to specialized programming. You will, I hope, be challenged to be thinking deeply about yourself. My recollection, and I've got the head of careers staring at me right now, if I don't get this right, Stuart, chime in, is that one of the first things that you'll do is an exercise where you think through who you are and where you're headed. That's about you. Now, about pivoting, some people pivot a little and some people try to pivot a lot. Pivoting a lot is difficult, and there's no kind of pivot license that you just get by coming into an MBA program. But we will, whenever we can and as much as we can, support you in all the various changes you want to make in your life, whether they be geographical or function or industry. And there are many success stories of people doing all that, and others who are doing kind of accelerations through their careers. Okay.
We've had a question come through about, I guess, the course structure and what's on offer this year. Do you?
Okay, the question is, which international electives will be offered this year, or are there any exchange opportunities? So on international electives, I believe, well, we are running them this year, and we will continue to run them next year. There are just very small opportunities, I wouldn't say for exchanges, but certainly to kind of get you kind of close to students from other schools. One of them is the program that we run with GNAM. We run an inbound program with students from GNAM, Global Network for Advanced Management, a network of 32 business schools of which we're a part. So a number of students from other schools will come here, so you'll have an opportunity to interact with some of those in very small cases. In other instances, well, they're not technically exchanged, the competitions that you go on often will have you side by side with students from other schools, and most of the time we win, which is great. But the sheer fact is that in an intense 9-month program, your ability to do a kind of massive exchange is fairly limited. So I don't want to promise you something we can't deliver. So we will be able to do some of the things that we talked about, but not major exchanges.
Thank you, everyone. You really put a lot of time into some really great questions. Just bear with us while we read through a few of them.
Okay. Let's do 1 year versus 2 years, because this is coming up in a couple of questions. So the classic choice is between a 1 year or 12-month program and a 2 year, which is closer to a 19-month program. And some look at this question almost religiously. I don't. So let's just be practical about it for a moment. Right now, there's more than a dozen 2-year programs that have cracked the $200,000 mark. That's a lot of money. That kind of money fundamentally can change not only can change who you are and where you go and how pressured you feel. I've been at a great school that offered a 2-year program and an even better school that offers a 1-year program. Sorry to my friends at Harvard. And what I would say is this. In a 1-year program, it's much more intense, and you will work, I think, a bit harder, and you will not have, you will basically have 3 terms instead of 4 terms. You will get something like 75 to 80% of what you would get in a 2-year program at considerably less time and less cost. We are kind of playing around with the schedule so that it'll be easier for you to do a summer internship. And ideally, that summer internship can be, in many cases, translated immediately into an employment outcome, as opposed to translated 10 months later in an employment outcome. But what I'd like to suggest to you is that you have to take control of your life. And here's why I think a 1-year program is a great investment. Let's see the round numbers. A 1-year program is about $100,000. It's just round numbers, a little bit less, but 2-year program is $200,000. So the delta in terms of money is $100,000 roughly, and the delta in terms of time is 9 months. I think you should take that delta, that $100,000 in 9 months of time, and invest it over yourself over the next decade. You need to, not us, you need to invest it so that over the next decade, you pick up additional skills. You can do that through executive education. You can do that through online courses. You can do that through seminars and conferences. And that is your job. No matter whether you go to a one-year program or a two-year program, sadly, you're not done. You're not baked for the rest of your life. You don't know everything you need to know. So you're going to have to do what we call lifelong learning. So take the time and take the money and invest it in yourself over the next decade. You may say, that's cheap talk. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. The truth is that I went back to exec ed about 18 months ago. I felt that I was getting stale and I needed a tune-up. And so we all need to continue to learn stuff. So I did exec ed, 18 months ago. I enrolled myself in Code Academy to try to learn Python a little bit. We all have to be continuous learners. So for me, the reason that I'm now so bullish on a one-year program is that I think you can get a tremendous amount of what you need to get started, which is the integrated body of knowledge that you get from the MBA, the connections with one another as a class, and in this case, the connections with this amazing university and brand. And then you can layer on top of it all these experiences all around the world over the next 10 years in executive programs, in digital programs, all sorts of things, because over the next 10 years, we'll find out what you don't know now. And what you don't know now is amazing. Who knew that we needed courses in blockchain 10 years ago, or we needed courses on AI or anything? The world's changing, and you're going to have to change with it. So I think that a one-year investment in a great program like ours, combined with a commitment to yourself to continue to figure out what you don't know and to pick that stuff up, is the simple best way you can spend your money.
There's a nice one here that's come through saying, what are the priority areas for improvement in the school, do you think, and what keeps you up at night? Bit of a tough one.
Yeah. No. So if you had studied in a business school, there's an expression that you would have heard, and it's called continuous improvement. And it actually harkens back to what I just said before. We're never done. We as individuals are never done, and as an institution, we're not done. So we're constantly trying to figure out how we can make the school better. So what keeps me up at night? If we ever felt so self-satisfied that we stopped that process, if we ever stopped asking, is this good enough? Can we do it better? That would get me really nervous. I don't see that, and I'm very pleased about that. The program that you're going to come to next year will look a little bit different than the program our students are taking now, which will look a little bit different than the program from the year before, which looks a little different from the program that I inherited 7 years ago. Every year we try to make it a little bit better. So it's not as if there's one thing that keeps me up at night, because if we don't fix that, everything is going to go to hell. No, it's making sure that we, and when I say we, I don't mean just me, we, the entire senior leadership team, the faculty, all acknowledge that if we don't keep working to improve our research and keep working to improve our teaching and the programs, that complacency will be our biggest enemy. So what's my biggest priority? So while this webinar is about the MBA program, maybe just a word about Dean's and about the scope of the school. We have 10 degree programs at the school, or excuse me, 12 with about 1,000 students. We have about 1,000 participants in open enrollment programs. We have about 3,500 participants in our custom executive education activities, and more than 7,000 online. I have to worry about all of that. So my priorities in some sense are making sure that we're balancing all those activities, we're hiring enough faculty to be able to do all those things, that we are raising this sufficient financial resources to pull off some of the big capital things that need to happen at the school. And we're doing it all while being true to our values and to that mission statement that I talked about at the beginning.
We've had a lovely question come through about our focus on Africa. So obviously, as Peter mentioned, we had our Oxford Business Forum Africa held 2 weekends ago now. So someone has asked basically why this focus on Africa, and besides bringing more African students to the school, how does the experience here at Oxford Saïd strengthen the profile of those who want to help solve some of the continent's problems and leverage its opportunities?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So maybe just to put it in context, why we're doing this Africa thing. One Right now, Africans account for 1.7% of all MBA applicants. And we boldly, or I boldly, announced in 2014 that we wanted to get to 10% and stay there. And we have done that in the last 4 years. What's that all about? The class that you're going to enter, and you are all going to enter it because after you're done, you're going to send in your deposits. The class that you're going to enter will come of age in about 25 years. I know you all feel like you're grown-ups right now, but you will come into your own over the next quarter century. You tell me what the world's going to look like in a quarter century. We'll be the locus of activity in the world, economic activity, business activity, demographic activity. Will 1% of the world's leaders, 1.7% of the world's business, 1.7% of the world's people be sitting in Africa? Absolutely not. It's already 6% of global GDP, or by some estimates, mid-teens in terms of global population, and all the growth, most of the growth in population is going to be in Africa. The need for jobs is largely going to be in Africa. So if there was one area where every other business school was slow and we're trying to just get ahead of the curve, it's in fact recognizing that some of the big issues, talk about tackling world scale problems, one of the biggest problems the world will face is how we employ another billion young people. And a lot of those young people will be in Africa. My bet is that it's going to take business with jobs to create jobs for all the business to create jobs for all those billion young people. And therefore, if you're true to the idea of tackling world scale problems, you can't ignore this continent. So is it because Africa needs us? I don't think so. Africa is a big continent. There are many other institutions that can help it. I think Africa needs us and we need Africa. Why the university and the business school needs Africa is because we need to understand what's going on there, and all these young people will be kind of the next few generations, and what they face in terms of leadership, and how it is that we can learn from them and then also learn with them. Why 10%? There's some old research that would suggest that when numbers get too small, people become tokens and can therefore be ignored. And so it was early research on gender that suggested that you had to at least get above 10% in order for a group not to be ignored. With 10% of the class from Africa, which is roughly 10% is a good number to explain most of the percentages around our class. It means that you can't avoid learning about Africa or East Asia or South Asia or North America or Europe. You can't assume that any of those is more important than the other. And in some sense, all we're doing here at the school is rebalancing in advance of the trend. What I think other business schools will do 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but by then it'll be too late. So thank you for the question, and that's what we're all about. It's to help to teach about what's going on in Africa, not only to Africans, but to teach Africans about things that might be helpful to them, and teach non-Africans things that they need to know about this and every other country.
I think that's a nice segue into our next question. So a few people have asked about the diversity in the class, if it's maybe what they should kind of expect in terms of age and maturity, or what they expect in terms of background that they bring. I guess, do you have anything to say about not just talking about the African diversity that the class has, but yeah, I guess so. We've got a question here asking all about different backgrounds. So someone coming from an industry shift from consulting to marketing. We've got other people asking about coming with a family. Basically, you know, we've got such a diverse cohort.
Yep.
There's no one size fits all.
Absolutely not. So while the average student might have 5 or 6 years worth of work experience, and we can characterize it in terms of the sectors that you've come from and other things like that. The truth is that there is no such thing as an average. That's a statistical artifact. It's like your head's in the oven and your feet are in the freezer, and on average you're warm. And similarly, if you look across our class, you're going to find lots of different people with lots of different backgrounds, coming from different places, going to different places. Some who are younger, some slightly older, some single, some with partners, some with kids, some from everything and everywhere. I think this is really healthy, to be honest. It kind of encourages you, dare I say, forces you to realize that different people are different, and therefore you're going to have to get to make peace with that, and more importantly, kind of celebrate those differences. So yes, we worry about people who are aimed at consulting with our consulting development program. We worry about people who are heading to finance with our finance lab, social impact with that. Our CDL will help folks, thinking about the fourth industrial revolution, all the various activities. As many as there are different ones of you, there are packages at Oxford to make everything so that we can help propel you on your career. I think we're coming to the end of this hour, so I just wanted to bring it to a close. First of all, by thanking you all for looking at Oxford, for applying to Oxford, and getting to this point in the process. I was kidding before, but I wasn't actually. This is the time to make a decision. There's lots of great schools out there. This one is special. I don't know you, but I suspect that you're special too, and you've been looking for that place that'll fit for you. Not a place where you're going to have to fit in with everybody else, where everybody looks like a certain way or in a certain mold. And some of you may be coming out of backgrounds in finance or in consulting. Some of you may be wanting to head in those areas, or you may want to do something completely different. This is an amazing place. We've had the confidence to accept you. You should have the confidence now to accept us. So I hope that we'll see you here in Oxford. And be able to meet you all in person soon. With that, thank you very much, and I hope that, as I said, you found that you're going to be here and that you found this helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.